Coming up next on KPBS Evening Edition, there is a San Diego connection to a scandal shaking up the Secret Service.
New video has been released of a man being tasered by Border Patrol agents in San Ysidro. The man died, and the video is raising new questions about the incident.
And a ghost bike now stands beside a busy street in the College area where a bicyclist died this week. Other bike riders want action to make the roads safer. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dwayne Brown.
And I'm Amitha Sharma, in for Joanne Farian.
The military says 4 San Diego service members are being investigated for misconduct in Colombia. 2 are from the Marines and the other 2 are from the Navy. They were in a hotel where some Secret Service agents allegedly brought in prostitutes just before President Obama's visit to Colombia. The Pentagon says the service members have not been charged with anything. Several Secret Service members have lost their jobs.
The Navy is starting dismissal proceedings against 2 Marines from a squad that killed 24 unarmed Iraqi civilians in 2005. Navy Secretary Ray Mabus ordered the move against Sergeant Sainik de la Cruz and Humberto Mendoza because they lied to military investigators after the massacre. The Marine Corps dropped criminal charges against both men in exchange for their testimony at the trial of their squad leader, Sergeant Frank Wuterich. He was the only Marine convicted in the Haditha killings. Police are investigating the death of a student inside a San Diego State fraternity house. The man was found inside the Phi Kappa Theta house this morning. He's been identified as 20-year-old Barzine Barzanji, a junior from Santee. School officials say he was not a member of Phi Kappa Theta. An autopsy is planned tomorrow.
A man who opened fire at a Carlsbad elementary school has been sentenced to 189 years to life in prison. Brendan O'Rourke was convicted of premeditated murder and assault with a firearm. 2 second-grade girls were injured in the shooting back in October 2010. We've been hearing a lot about San Diego's mayoral candidates, but there were debates this week for some lower-profile positions on the San Diego Unified School Board. KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert joins us from the News Center. Kyla, how many school board seats are up for grabs this year?
3 of the 5 seats on the board are up for election this year. The one open seat is to represent some southeastern communities in San Diego, like Encanto, Paradise Hills, Skyline. And the people running for that seat are William Ponder, who's a retired college administrator. He's also a former teacher and college instructor. And he's running against Marnie Foster, who's an instructor and administrator for the San Diego Community College District. The other contended seat is currently held by John Lee Evans, a psychologist, and that seat represents the North Inland communities like University City, Mira Mesa, and he has 2 opponents, Mark Powell, who is a former teacher and school site administrator, and he is currently works in real estate, and also Jared Hamilton, who runs a clothing store in La Jolla, and then Richard Barrera, who represents the neighborhoods surrounding Balboa Park, as well as Barrio Logan, Sherman Heights, is running uncontested for re-election.
Yeah, so quite a few seats up for grabs. What were some of the big issues debated this week by the candidates?
Well, at both debates, they, of course, spent a lot of time talking about how to solve the district's ongoing financial problems. They're facing a $120 million deficit for the coming year. And so some of the ideas they discussed were supporting November ballot initiatives to raise revenues for schools, renegotiating union contracts, and raising revenues through private donations or by leveraging some of the district's assets like excess property. They also took questions from the audience about things like busing, the role of charter schools in the district, and how to attract families back to their neighborhood schools.
KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert.
There were more jobs in San Diego County last month, but the unemployment rate still went up by 1/10 of a point. The number for March was 9.5%. State analysts say the jobless rate increased because there were more people in the labor pool. More rallies were staged outside the Farmers Market building in Sherman Heights today. Earlier this week, part of the building was torn down. Walmart plans to put a new store there. Political and union leaders joined community members in calling for the nearly century-old building to be left alone. And on Monday, a judge will hear arguments to stop the demolition. Construction workers also rallied at the site today, saying the project means jobs for the area.
Students at San Diego State this week remembered a bicyclist killed on a dangerous road riders are forced to use. KPBS reporter Tom Fudge knows firsthand the hazards of Montezuma Road.
An abandoned bike painted white, a ghost bike. It's chained to a sign on Montezuma Road to commemorate the life of Charles Raymond Gilbreth. Forrest Brodsky is president of the group Bike Stand, which painted and installed the bike.
None of us personally knew Mr. Gilbreth, but we wanted to make sure that he was remembered.
Gilbreth, age 63, was struck and killed by a car while using the bike lane on Montezuma between Fairmount and Colwood.
To me, the dangers of Montezuma are personal. 5 years ago, I was riding my bike to work when I was hit by a car right here at the corner of Colwood. I spent a week in the trauma ward.
Montezuma Road is a four-lane thoroughfare that is the only direct route to San Diego State for many people who live west of campus. Here, car speeds over 60 miles an hour are common. Brodsky says the fatal accident should raise awareness of motorists.
It's sad that it takes something like this drastic to kind of spark that thought of, oh, maybe I do have to drive at the speed limit, or I have to be aware of other things besides just cars that are on the road.
Others say we need more than awareness. The bike blogosphere has been alive with calls for city officials to find a way to calm traffic on Montezuma Road. My calls to the mayor's office were not returned. For now, flowers have been placed in memory, and car travelers can see Mr. Gilbreth's ghost bike.
That story from KPBS reporter Tom Fudge. Wednesday's accident is still under investigation. Later tonight on KPBS, the investigative news program First Look focuses on a recent series of border deaths. Amit is talking with one of the producers at the Evening Edition Roundtable.
There have been 8 deaths by Border Patrol agents over the last 2 years along the U.S.-Mexico border. New footage has surfaced of the death of Anastasio Hernandez Rojas that raises troubling questions. The 42-year-old father of 5 died after being tased by agents at the border in San Ysidro in May 2010. His death was ruled a homicide. John Carlos Frey, a documentary filmmaker who investigated this issue, joins me. John, at the time that Rojas encountered Border Patrol agents, the San Diego Police Department said that he was combative and had to be tased. What does this new footage show?
It shows a man prone, lying flat on the ground, handcuffed behind his back. And as the video progresses, he's also hogtied, meaning he's tied around his ankles. There is at least a dozen, if not more, border officers standing around him as the taser is being fired. So from the video clip itself, it does not look like there is a man that is combative. If anything, it looks like that there's a man who is not resisting.
And what is Rojas heard saying?
During this time, over a period of almost about a half an hour's worth of time, repeatedly we hear the man screaming out for help. Ayúdame, por favor. And in English that means help me, please. He's trying to get the attention of a crowd that is starting to gather around.
And what do the eyewitnesses in this crowd say about what they saw?
They see a man, and they all say that this man was handcuffed behind his back. They all say, at least the ones that I've spoken to, that he was never combative. They all heard the cries. On several instances, they see border officers punching and kicking. They also talk about the use of a baton. One eyewitness actually describes the use of a baton like playing the bongo drums, repeatedly hitting him. This beating went on for over a half an hour, according to some eyewitnesses.
And what happened to the footage that some of these eyewitnesses shot with their cell phones immediately after this incident?
If you've ever been down to the border, you know that it's a very busy place. There's a lot of pedestrians walking back and forth, and people stopped to see if they could find out what was happening when they heard these cries. Some people pulled out their cell phone cameras and their video cameras, and according to eyewitnesses, the Border Patrol agents themselves walked around this crowd and started confiscating people's video cameras and cell phones. And I have testimony from one eyewitness who said they actually witnessed Border Patrol agents scrolling through their video camera and physically deleting what they had found and what they had recorded.
What have U.S. Border Patrol agents told you about Rojas's death?
There's only an official report, and that's a press release that was released the day after the incident itself. Other than that, they've been tight-lipped, and it's basically what was your very first question. They say that Anastasio was combative when they removed his handcuffs in the process of being deported, and he became combative so that they had to use a taser to subdue him. That's all the information that I have received.
Now, the medical examiner's report says that Rojas had methamphetamine in his system. What role might that have played in the violence that has been alleged by Border Patrol agents? They say he was combative, and what role might it have been played just overall in his death?
According to toxicology reports, the amount of methamphetamine in his system is not consistent with someone who would become violent. It appears that the amount that he had in his system was enough to keep him awake at night, some sort of a stimulant that he may have took. I've been told that it's equivalent to the amount of stimulant that's in a cup of coffee. So whether he was violent or not, it was not likely attributed to any sort of methamphetamine or any chemicals in his system.
Now, what system is in place to look further into these 8 deaths that have occurred along the border over the past 2 years? Is anyone being held accountable, or are any inquiries being made?
There certainly are inquiries being made by the victims' families and by some human rights organizations wanting to know more information. As far as we can tell, as far as the public can tell, there is no new information forthcoming. The Justice Department now has the case. The investigation is over. There are no criminal proceedings. There are no agents that have been reprimanded. As far as we know, the agents responsible in this case are still on the job. They were never fined, and we don't even know their names. So this case has basically been shut down, and as far as we can tell, nothing is forthcoming.
And we're going to have to close it there. Thank you, John, so much for appearing.
Thank you. My pleasure.
That documentary, First Look Crossing the Line, airs tonight on KPBS at 8:30. Up next on Evening Edition, an exclusive interview with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. We talk with him about compassion, religion, and much more in just a moment.
Tonight on KPBS. At 8, it's PBS's longest-running public affairs series, featuring Washington's top journalists, analyzing the week's news and its effect on the lives of all Americans. Washington Week. Then at 8:30, did U.S. agents abuse a man in their custody? And is there a pattern of excessive force being used along the border with Mexico? On Need to Know. And at 9, a Frontline investigation finds serious flaws in some of the best-known tools of forensic science. That's tonight on KPBS.
On Masterpiece Classic.
I loved a woman once.
Isabel, my wife.
She loved me.
We are going to attack. The hunt will never recover.
Do you feel guilty? No. Isabel. There is nothing more, sir, to love and be loved.
Birdsong on Masterpiece Classic.
Sunday at 9 on KPBS. KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama, spent 2 days in San Diego this week. His lectures filled the arenas at USD, UC San Diego, and San Diego State. KPBS Midday Edition host Maureen Cavanaugh had a rare opportunity to talk with His Holiness yesterday. KPBS was the only media outlet honored with an exclusive interview during his San Diego visit.
First of all, thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. Your Holiness, your lectures to students in San Diego are about compassion without borders. I want to ask you first about compassion within borders. Do you think America is a compassionate nation?
I think every human being born from mother and at least the next few years, you see, received sort of, the immense sort of affection from our mother. So the child's, I think, first experience in this lifetime, at the beginning, I think the immense affection from other sort of absorb in our blood. So therefore, whole rest of life, other people show you smile, genuine sort of closeness feeling. You feel happy. Even animal also like that. So now here, country to country, obviously, those countries where constant fear, greater damage about that. So from that viewpoint, America, free country, democratic country. So more opportunity, still this more sort of alive. This is my feeling.
Some people think that we can't be compassionate or ethical without religion. Can we get beyond religion?
Yes, certainly. Animal, I will ask you, animal have any religion?
No.
Cats, dogs, and some, birds, many species of mammals, they also have this sort of potential, show affection. Firstly, because of the biological factor. And then, like dogs, if you, the owner of the dog, really showing not just food, but real affection, then dog very much appreciate. Isn't it?
Yes.
Just give food without showing affection, they may not get sort of 100% satisfaction. So they also, you see, when we human beings, we show affection, the poor animal also respond to us, isn't it? Licking, or cat, you see, sometimes you see, there's sort of, what's the palm, put here, and then some special sort of sound. You say, very peaceful, isn't it? That is their sort of response of affection. So they also have the, sort of they appreciate others' affection. They also have the sort of ability to show their own affection. So, and then, right from the beginning, as soon as we're born, child, no religious faith, isn't it? So that's my main argument. So the affection is mainly a biological factor. Then further sort of strengthening that religion helpful. And without religion, also you see there is way, through education, through awareness, like scientific findings, then you get conviction. Not necessarily really love other, but for their own interest, you see, they showing love, compassion to other, like that.
My last question to you. Do you feel it's your obligation to go around the world to give these lectures, or is it also your joy?
Not obligation. Without invitation. I never go this area. The invitation come from some institution who really involving so-called my own profession, this field. And then this is the different universities or education sort of institution. I feel that is the place where the awareness of these things to start and to spread among human community. So then is on that level, yes, I have some kind of obligation. I, one individual human being, one of the 7 billion human beings, I believe each of us, our future depends on rest of the humanity. Humanity happy, I get benefit. Humanity in a state of trouble or violence, I cannot escape from that. So every sort of 7 billion human beings have to think about the well-being of humanity. So my own share, making contribution for my own share.
And tonight we will have more of Maureen's conversation with the Dalai Lama on our website, kpbs.org. Coming up next, some of San Diego's art history coming out of storage. The story from our culture desk. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
I'm Jeffrey Brown. On the next news hour, the cleanup of the Gulf 2 years after the oil spill, plus Shields and Brooks. That's Friday on the PBS NewsHour.
Hi, I'm Yul Kwan from the new PBS series, America Revealed. Make Wednesdays your destination for exploration. First, on nature, encounter the radioactive wolves of Chernobyl. Next, Nova unlocks the secrets of our nearest star, the Sun. Then, join me for America Revealed and see how we produce and deliver energy to a switched-on nation. This Wednesday, PBS is your destination for exploration.
The American people have named PBS
the most trusted source of news
and public affairs
for the 8th year in a row.
Trust.
The American people have spoken.
Thank you.
A slice of San Diego's artistic history has been languishing in boxes and crates, but now the murals and paintings from an old brewery in Barrio Logan are coming out of storage. The story of how this art was saved and how it will be restored is the focus of a two-part series by my two guests. Joining me are KPBS arts reporter Angela Carone and arts reporter for Voice of San Diego, Kelly Bennett. Angela, let's start out with the Aztec Brewery. How did art get inside there?
Well, the brewery was a really popular spot in the 30s and 40s, and it had this tasting room attached to it that was called a Rathskeller, and there people could come and enjoy the beer, and they also came to see the interior. It was a small, almost chapel-like interior, and very lavish, very much a piece of the time. People did decoration that way at that time. And it had stained glass windows and a painted ceiling, and it had these big grand chandeliers, iron chandeliers that hung from the ceiling, and a lot of the paintings depicted Aztec and Mayan imagery. The sort of signature piece of this very elaborate room was this large mural on the wall behind the bar, and it depicted an Aztec human sacrifice. So you can imagine someone seeing just a photograph, that they can see a photograph of them on our websites. It just was a very much like a temple almost.
Kelly, who painted this art, and are there any important works in there?
The artist responsible for a lot of the art was named Jose Moya del Pino, and he was sent from Spain. The King of Spain sent him to the States in the 20s to be this cultural emissary and to kind of inform a United States audience about what was being produced in Spain. By the time money ran out for his little tour, he started painting a lot of portraits and murals. And so when he got to San Diego and was painting in the Aztec Brewery, he was drawing on all of these different traditions that were popular at the time, both murals that were popular in the United States during the 30s, but also the Mexican mural movement, and drawing on this Aztec and Mayan symbolism. So when you think about the importance of the artwork, though there have been some suggestions that he was connected in various ways to different famous artists of the time, the importance is really about how did this fit in San Diego's history? What was this collection? What did it mean that it was a place where people could not only just go and look at these works, you know, maybe in a more traditional art setting, but could actually be immersed in them while they had, beer after work one day.
So who went there? Who went to the brewery to look at this art and to drink? And what eventually happened to the brewery and the art inside?
Well, the people of the neighborhood went there for sure. I mean, the folks of Barrio Logan, people who were working on the docks at the time and working in the tuna cannery industry, also went there. And then people from all over San Diego went as well. People would have meetings there. What happened to it is a whole different story. The brewery closed down in 1953, and the artwork, the Rathskeller, was just boarded up, basically. And all of that artwork sat in that little Rathskeller for close to 30 years, just collecting dust. Jump ahead to 1988, a new developer buys the property, decides he's going to raze it, demolish the whole thing. Just before the wrecking ball comes, a man named Salvador Torres sees a photograph, a vintage photograph of people standing in front of that mural that we talked about. He rushes over to see if the mural is still there. It is. He mobilizes his friends and family to save not just the mural, but all of the artwork in the Rathskeller. The media gets involved, they spread the word, and the city steps in. The city of San Diego steps in and takes ownership of the artwork with a promise to one day put it back in the neighborhood.
So it's been in storage all this time. Why is it coming out now?
Well, when the city accepted the donation, they said, there's this project that we're really excited about happening in Barrio Logan. We'd love to put it in there once it's built. That project, the Mercado del Barrio, is just now being built in 2012. So the long-awaited project that is, also then, people started thinking, hey, what about that artwork that we have sitting in storage? It's been in Balboa Park, a lot of the big pieces of the murals, and then the smaller pieces and the chairs and the chandeliers and the stained glass windows and all of that has kind of moved around that collection from place to place, ending up now in a storage unit in El Cajon.
So very quickly, where do things stand now?
As the project is concerned, there's a restaurant in Mercado that the developers in the city are hoping to bring all of this stuff out of storage and install it back in the restaurant there.
And we have to close it here. Kelly, Angela, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Tonight in the public square, the city's hoteliers next week will wrap up their vote on whether to raise room taxes to pay for an expansion of the convention center. Critics have said the issue should be decided by the public and not just hoteliers. They want it to go to a public vote, as the previous two convention center projects have. Councilman and mayoral candidate Carl DeMaio said this expansion is different because it does not involve public money, but it does rely on room taxes. What do you think? Is this public money? You can weigh in on the conversation by following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and of course, you can email us.
Recapping tonight's top stories, the Navy is starting dismissal proceedings against 2 Marines from a squad accused of killing 24 unarmed Iraqi civilians in 2005. The Navy secretary ordered the move against the Marines because they lied to military investigators after the massacre. And the military says 2 San Diego Marines and 2 sailors are being investigated for possible misconduct in Colombia. They were in a hotel where some Secret Service agents allegedly brought in prostitutes just before President Obama's visit there. PBS NewsHour will have more on this case in just a few minutes. For more on tonight's stories, visit our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great weekend.